Have you ever been told your dreams were too big, too unrealistic, or just plain impossible? That's exactly what Elena Carter heard every single day from the people who were supposed to believe in her the most, her own family. They laughed at her ambition to start her own interior design business, calling it a waste of time and money. But what they didn't know was that behind their backs, Elena was quietly building something extraordinary. This is the story of how one woman turned rejection into motivation, built a thriving business from nothing, and, in the end, taught her family the true meaning of hard work and belief. But it wasn't easy. There were sacrifices, betrayals, and moments of doubt. And just when she thought she had it all figured out, life threw her a curveball that would change everything. Elena adjusted her name tag as she stood behind the counter of the small furniture store where she worked. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above her, and the faint smell of varnish lingered in the air. She glanced at the clock on the wall, counting down the minutes until her shift ended. It wasn't that she hated her job. It paid the bills, but it wasn't where she wanted to be. Not even close. For as long as she could remember, Elena had dreamed of starting her own interior design business. She had a knack for transforming small, cramped spaces into something functional and beautiful. But every time she brought it up to her family, they dismissed her ideas as childish fantasies. "Lena, you need to be realistic," her mother Linda would say, shaking her head. "You're 28. You can't just quit your job and chase some pipe dream." Her older brother Marcus was even harsher. "You think you're going to be the next big designer? Please. You can't even afford to fix your car." And then there was Sophia, her sister, who always had a condescending smile ready. "It's cute that you still think you can make it big, but maybe you should focus on getting a promotion at the store instead." Elena had learned to keep her dreams to herself. But today, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. She had applied for a small business grant, a program designed to help aspiring entrepreneurs like her. If she got it, it would be her ticket out of this dead-end job and into the life she'd always wanted. When her phone buzzed, her heart leapt. The email was from the grant committee. She stepped into the break room, her hands trembling as she opened it. "Dear Ms. Elena Carter, we regret to inform you." The words blurred together as her chest tightened. She had been rejected. That evening, as she sat at the dinner table with her family, the rejection weighed heavily on her. She hadn't told them about the grant, but somehow they always seemed to know when she failed. "So, how's the big dream going?" Marcus smirked, shoveling food into his mouth. "Still waiting for your big break?" Sophia added, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Elena clenched her fists under the table. "I'm working on it," she said quietly. Her mother sighed. "Honey, maybe it's time to let this go. You're not a kid anymore. It's time to grow up." Something inside Elena snapped. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You know what? You're right. I'm done waiting for your approval. I'm done trying to make you believe in me. From now on, I'm doing this my way." Her family stared at her in stunned silence as she grabbed her bag and walked out the door. As she sat in her car, staring at the darkened street ahead, a single thought echoed in her mind. "If they won't believe in me, I'll just have to prove them wrong." She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in years. "Hey Daniel, it's Elena. Remember that idea we talked about? I think it's time to make it happen." The next morning, Elena met Daniel at a small coffee shop downtown. The place was buzzing with the sound of espresso machines and quiet chatter, but Elena barely noticed. She was too focused on the notebook in front of her, filled with sketches, notes, and ideas she had been working on for months. Daniel, her old college friend, sat across from her, sipping his coffee. He had always been the practical one, the tech-savvy problem solver who could turn ideas into reality. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you're finally ready to do this?" Elena nodded, her determination unwavering. "I've been ready for years. I just didn't have the resources or the courage. But I'm done waiting. I'm going to start my own interior design business, focusing on custom solutions for small spaces, apartments, tiny homes, offices, places where people need creativity to make the most of what they have. Daniel raised an eyebrow. And do you think there's a market for that? Absolutely, Elena said, flipping through her notebook to show him her research. I've been studying trends. More people are living in smaller spaces, especially in cities. They want their homes to be functional, but also stylish. Most design services are either too expensive or too generic. I want to offer something in the middle, affordable, personalized, and high. Daniel studied her notes, his expression thoughtful. Okay, I'll admit, this sounds promising, but what's your plan? How are you going to get this off the ground? Elena hesitated for a moment before answering. I've been saving up. I have about $6,000. It's not much, but it's a start. I'm also selling my car. That should give me another $4,000. Daniel frowned. That's still not enough. Starting a business like this will cost at least $20,000, maybe more. What about the rest? Elena took a deep breath. That's where you come in. I need a partner, someone who knows tech, someone I can trust. I was hoping you'd want to join me. Daniel leaned forward, his fingers tapping the edge of his coffee cup. You're asking me to take a huge risk here, Elena. What if it doesn't work? It will, she said firmly. I've thought this through. I've already found a few suppliers who are willing to work with me. I've sketched out designs, and I know how to market this. I just need someone to help me build the website and to handle the tech side of things. You're the only person I trust to do that. The silence between them stretched, and Elena's heart pounded in her chest. She had no backup plan if Daniel said no. Finally, he smiled. All right, I'm in. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. No cutting corners. The website has to look professional, the branding has to be on point, and the customer experience has to be seamless. Agreed? Elena grinned, relief washing over her. Agreed. For the next 3 hours, they worked together, sketching out a business plan on napkins and brainstorming ideas. Daniel's tech expertise filled in the gaps in Elena's vision, and her passion for design inspired him to think bigger. By the time they left the coffee shop, they had a clear plan. Daniel would build the website complete with a virtual design tool that allowed customers to customize their spaces online. Elena would focus on creating sample designs, sourcing materials, and building relationships with suppliers. They would launch with a small collection of customizable furniture and decor, targeting young professionals and urban dwellers. But the road ahead wasn't easy. Elena worked double shifts at the furniture store to save more money, often staying up late into the night to sketch designs and email suppliers. Daniel juggled his full-time job while coding the website in his spare time. There were moments of doubt, like when one of their suppliers backed out at the last minute, or when the website crashed during testing, but every setback only made Elena more determined. One night, as she sat at her kitchen table surrounded by sketches and invoices, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Daniel. Check your email. Elena opened her laptop and clicked on the link he had sent. It was the beta version of their website. The sleek design, the intuitive interface, the way her ideas came to life on the screen. It was everything she had imagined and more. "We're really doing this," she whispered to herself, a smile spreading across her face. The next day, they officially launched their business, Small Space Solutions. Elena posted about it on social media, sent emails to potential clients, and even handed out flyers at the furniture store. At first, there was little response, and doubt began to creep in. But then, a week later, they got their first order. A young couple wanted help designing their tiny apartment. It wasn't a big job, but it was a start. As Elena and Daniel celebrated over takeout that night, she couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. This was just the beginning. The first project was small, but to Elena, it felt monumental. The young couple, Sarah and Ben, had just moved into a 500-square-foot apartment in the city. They loved the location but were overwhelmed by how cramped the space felt. They wanted a home that was both functional and stylish, but they had no idea where to start. Elena met them at their apartment one Saturday morning, armed with her notebook, a tape measure, and a head full of ideas. As she walked through the space, she could already see the potential. The living room could double as a workspace with the right furniture. The kitchen, though tiny, could be optimized with clever storage solutions. Even the bedroom, which barely fit a bed, could feel more open with a few design tricks. Sarah looked skeptical as Elena explained her vision. "Are you sure this is possible? It just feels so small." Elena smiled confidently. "Trust me, by the time I'm done, this place will feel twice as big." Over the next 2 weeks, Elena poured her heart into the project. She worked late into the night, sketching layouts and sourcing affordable yet stylish furniture. Daniel helped her create a 3D mock-up of the design, which she presented to Sarah and Ben. Seeing their apartment transformed on the screen was enough to convince them to move forward. The execution wasn't without its challenges. The custom shelving unit Elena had ordered arrived damaged, forcing her to scramble for a replacement. The delivery of the sofa was delayed, and she had to personally pick it up to ensure the project stayed on schedule. But Elena refused to let anything derail her. Finally, the day came to reveal the finished space. Sarah and Ben walked into their apartment, their jaws dropping as they took in the transformation. The once cluttered living room now featured a sleek, foldable desk that doubled as a dining table. The kitchen had new wall-mount racks and pull-out drawers that made every inch of space usable. The bedroom, painted in soft, calming tones, had a raised platform bed with built-in storage underneath. "This is incredible," Sarah said, her voice filled with emotion. "I can't believe this is the same apartment." Ben nodded, grinning. "You've made it feel like home, thank you." Hearing those words made every sleepless night and every moment of doubt worth it. Elena left their apartment that day with a glowing review and a renewed sense of purpose. She knew this was just the beginning. Word of her work spread quickly. Sarah and Ben posted photos of their new apartment on social media, tagging Small Space Solutions. Within days, Elena and Daniel started receiving inquiries from other potential clients. A young professional wanted help redesigning her studio apartment. A small startup needed a functional yet stylish office space. The projects kept coming, and with each one, Elena's confidence grew. But success brought new challenges. The demand was more than Elena and Daniel could handle on their own. Elena found herself juggling multiple projects, often working 16-hour days to keep up. Daniel, who was still working his full-time job, struggled to balance his responsibilities. They needed help, but hiring someone felt like a risk they couldn't afford. One evening, as they sat in Daniel's apartment surrounded by laptops and paperwork, Elena sighed. "We can't keep doing this alone. We need to expand." Daniel nodded. "I know, but hiring someone means more expenses. What if we can't afford it?" Elena thought for a moment before replying. "What if we look for freelancers? We can hire people on a project-by-project basis. That way we're not committing to full-time salaries, but we'll still have the help we need." It was a practical solution, and within a week they had brought on 2 freelance designers and a part-time assistant to handle client communication. The extra hands made a world of difference. Elena could focus on the creative side of the business, while Daniel had more time to refine the website and improve their online presence. Their next big break came when a local real estate agency reached out. They were looking for a design team to stage their model apartments, and they had seen Elena's work online. The contract was worth more than any project they had taken on before, and it was a chance to showcase their skills to a wider audience. Elena and Daniel threw themselves into the project, treating it as an opportunity to prove what small space solutions could do. They worked tirelessly, designing each model apartment to highlight its best features while staying within the agency's budget. When the project was complete, the agency was so impressed that they signed a long-term contract with Elena's company. For the first time, Elena felt like her dream was truly within reach. Small Space Solutions was no longer just an idea or a side hustle. It was a thriving business, and she had built it from the ground up. But as the business grew, so did the pressure. Elena knew she couldn't keep her success a secret from her family forever, and soon, circumstances would force her to confront them in a way she never expected. Elena's days were busier than ever. Between managing new clients, overseeing her growing team, and planning for the future of Small Space Solutions, she barely had time to think about anything else. But one evening, as she was wrapping up a meeting with Daniel, her phone buzzed with a call from her mother, Linda. It was unusual for her mother to call. They hadn't spoken much since Elena had walked out of that family dinner months ago. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hi, Mom," Elena said cautiously. "Lena." Her mother's voice sounded strained, almost desperate. "We need to talk. Can you come over tonight?" Elena frowned. "Is everything okay?" There was a long pause before Linda replied. "No, it's not. Please, just come." Later that evening, Elena found herself sitting in her mother's living room, the same place where her family had once mocked her dreams. But this time the atmosphere was different. Her mother sat on the couch, wringing her hands, while Marcus and Sophia avoided eye contact. "What's going on?" Elena asked, her voice steady but curious. Her mother sighed deeply. "We're in trouble, Elena. Financial trouble." Elena's heart sank. She hadn't expected this. Linda continued. "I lost my job a few months ago. The company downsized, and I was one of the first to go. I've been trying to find something else, but at my age, it's not easy. I'm behind on rent, and I don't know how much longer I can keep the house." Elena turned to Marcus, who was sitting with his arms crossed. "What about you? I thought your business was doing well." Marcus let out a bitter laugh. "It was, until it wasn't. I made some bad investments, and now I'm drowning in debt. The bank's threatening to repossess my car." Sophia, who had always seemed so confident and put together, finally spoke up. "I got demoted at work. They said my performance wasn't meeting expectations. I'm barely making enough to cover my bills." Elena sat back, processing everything. Her family, who had always looked down on her, who had told her to be realistic and practical, was now coming to her for help. "Sir, what do you want from me?" Elena asked, her tone calm but firm. Her mother looked at her with pleading eyes. "We need your help, Elena. I know we haven't always supported you, but you're the only one who seems to have things figured out. Please, if there's anything you can do." Elena felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a strange sense of vindication. They had doubted her, mocked her, and now they were asking for her help. But she also knew she couldn't just turn her back on them. "I'll help you," Elena said finally, "but there's a condition." Her family looked at her, waiting. "If I'm going to help you, you're going to have to work for it. All of you," she said, her voice firm. "I'll give you jobs at my company. You'll earn your way out of this mess, and in the process, you'll learn what it takes to build something from the ground up." Marcus frowned. "You want us to work for you? Are you serious?" "Dead serious," Elena replied. "You've all spent years telling me to be realistic, to give up on my dreams. Now it's time for you to see what it takes to make those dreams a reality." Her mother nodded slowly. "If that's what it takes, I'll do it." Sophia hesitated but eventually agreed. "Fine, I'll do it too." Marcus, still reluctant, finally sighed. "All right, I'll do it, but don't expect me to enjoy it." Elena stood up, her confidence unwavering. "Good. Be at my office tomorrow morning at 9. I'll have roles for each of you." As she left her mother's house that night, Elena felt a strange sense of satisfaction. This wasn't about revenge. It was about teaching her family the value of hard work and showing them what she was capable of. The next day, her family arrived at the Small Space Solutions office, looking out of place and unsure of themselves. Elena assigned each of them a role. Linda would handle customer service, answering calls and emails from clients. Marcus would manage the warehouse, overseeing inventory and deliveries. Sophia, with her background in marketing, would help promote the business and bring in new clients. At first, the transition was rocky. Linda struggled with the fast-paced nature of customer service, often getting flustered when clients were demanding. Marcus, who was used to being his own boss, had a hard time taking orders from Elena. And Sophia, who had always been confident in her abilities, found herself overwhelmed by the pressure to deliver results. But slowly, things began to change. Linda started receiving positive feedback from clients who appreciated her warmth and patience. Marcus found ways to improve the efficiency of the warehouse, saving the company time and money. And Sophia, after a few initial missteps, landed a major client through a marketing campaign she had designed. For the first time in years, Elena's family began to see her in a new light. They realized how much work she had put into building her business and how wrong they had been to doubt her. But the journey wasn't over yet. There was still more to learn, and Elena knew that the real test of their growth was yet to come. Weeks turned into months, and slowly but surely, Elena's family began to adapt to their new roles at Small Space Solutions. The initial resistance and awkwardness faded as they started to understand the effort and dedication it took to run a business. For the first time, they were seeing Elena not as the dreamer they had dismissed, but as a capable and determined leader. Linda, who had struggled with customer service at first, became one of the company's most valuable assets. Her natural warmth and empathy shone through in her interactions with clients. She began to take pride in her work, often staying late to ensure every customer's concerns were addressed. One evening, as she and Elena were locking up the office, Linda turned to her daughter. "I never realized how much you've accomplished, Elena. I'm so proud of you." Elena paused, surprised by the words. For years, she had longed to hear those exact sentiments from her mother. "Thanks, Mom," she said softly. Marcus, who had been reluctant to take orders from his younger sister, found his footing in the warehouse. His natural organizational skills helped streamline operations, and he even implemented a new inventory system that saved the company thousands of dollars. One day, as he was showing Elena the improvements he had made, he admitted, "I was wrong about you. I thought this was just some silly idea, but you've built something real. I'm sorry for not believing in you." Elena smiled. "It's okay, Marcus. I'm just glad you're here now." Sophia, who had always been the most critical of Elena's dreams, had perhaps the biggest transformation of all. After a rocky start in marketing, she began to thrive, using her creativity to bring in new clients and expand the company's reach. She even landed a partnership with a major co-working space, which brought in a steady stream of new projects. One afternoon, as they were reviewing a campaign together, Sophia looked at Elena and said, "You know, I used to think you were crazy for chasing this dream, but now I see how wrong I was. You've inspired me, Elena. I want to be better because of you." Hearing those words from her sister brought tears to Elena's eyes. For so long she had felt like an outsider in her own family, but now things were finally changing. As the business continued to grow, so did their bond as a family. They began to spend more time together outside of work, sharing meals and laughing in a way they hadn't in years. The tension and resentment that had once defined their relationships were replaced by mutual respect and understanding. But the biggest moment of reconciliation came during a company event. Small Space Solutions had just hit a major milestone, reaching 7 figures in revenue, and Elena decided to celebrate with a party for her team and clients. As she stood in front of the crowd, thanking everyone for their support, she paused to acknowledge her family. "I want to take a moment to thank 3 people who mean the world to me," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "My mom, my brother, and my sister. They've not only helped this company grow, but they've also shown me what it means to be a family. I couldn't have done this without them." The room erupted in applause, and Elena's family looked at her with pride and gratitude. After the event, as they were cleaning up, Daniel pulled Elena aside. "You've come a long way," he said, smiling. "So you," Elena replied. "I couldn't have done this without you." Daniel hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Actually, there's something I've been meaning to ask you." Elena raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Daniel took a deep breath. "We've built something amazing together, Elena. Not just this business, but a partnership, and I want to take that partnership to the next level." Before she could respond, he pulled out a small box and opened it, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "Elena Carter, will you marry me?" For a moment, Elena was speechless. She looked at Daniel, then at the ring, and then back at him. "Yes," she said finally, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I will." The room erupted in cheers as their team and family gathered around to congratulate them. That night, as Elena sat with her family and Daniel, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they had all come. What had started as a dream she had kept to herself had grown into something bigger than she could have ever imagined. Her family, once her biggest critics, were now her biggest supporters, and she had proven to herself, and to them, that with hard work and determination anything was possible. But most importantly, she had found a way to bring her family back together, not just as co-workers, but as a team, as a support system, and as people who truly believed in one another. The weeks following the proposal were a whirlwind of activity. Elena and Daniel's engagement became the talk of the office, and their team couldn't have been happier for them. But amidst the excitement, Elena remained focused on the future of Small Space Solutions. With the company thriving and her family now fully integrated into the business, Elena began to think about the next steps. She and Daniel had always dreamed of expanding beyond their local market, and now, with the success they had achieved, it finally felt possible. One evening, as they sat together in their small but cozy office, Elena brought it up. "What if we opened a second location, maybe in another city?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, considering the idea. "It's ambitious, but I think we're ready. We've built a strong foundation here, and with the team we have now, we could make it work." Elena smiled. "I want to take what we've built and share it with more people. There are so many small spaces out there waiting to be transformed." The next few months were spent planning the expansion. Sophia took charge of the marketing strategy, using her newfound confidence and skills to promote the company's growth. Marcus worked on logistics, ensuring that their supply chain could handle the increased demand. Linda, ever the heart of the team, continued to provide exceptional customer service, building relationships with new clients. As the pieces fell into place, Elena couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, not just in the business she had built, but in the family she had rebuilt. On the day they opened their second location, Elena stood with Daniel, her family, and her team by her side. She looked out at the crowd gathered for the ribbon-cutting ceremony and felt a wave of gratitude. This wasn't just her dream anymore, it was their dream, and together they had made it a reality.